So, I have a new camera, and I'm actually really excited to talk about it. Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be going over my first impressions of the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II X. But before we go any further, I do want to say that this video is sponsored by Panasonic, and they did provide me with a S5 Mark II X, and they also lent me some lenses. So I've been really excited to get my hands on this camera and to really see if it lives up to the hype and if it will be the perfect camera for me as a filmmaker slash YouTuber. Now, as some of you may know, I had the original Panasonic S5 and I absolutely loved it. But this S5 Mark II X has everything that the original had and so much more. Okay, so we're at one of my favorite spots. I'm gonna be shooting in 4K 24 10-bit with the Lumix S5 IIX. Try to get some of this mountaintop. Just the layering of the fog looks so good. So if I tried to go through every single feature that this camera had, this video would take forever. So instead, what I wanted to do was go through some of these standout features for me and the type of videos that I make. So the first thing that you'll notice about this camera is that it's a really sexy camera. The logos and the branding, everything is matte black, so it just gives this camera a really sleek and professional look. But when it comes down to features, one of the things that I was really excited for was the phase detection autofocus, which I'm actually using right now. And it works really, really well. I've been a Panasonic Lumix shooter for a really long time, and phase detect autofocus was something that I've been waiting for years. So the second off is resolutions. You can shoot really high resolution video, but for the most part, if you're like me and you like to shoot either 4K and 1080p, there is a plethora of codecs. Anything from IPB, All-I, H.265, Apple ProRes. There's just so many different codec combinations to choose from. This camera can even shoot ProRes and Blackmagic RAW if you want to. Now that's a little bit too heavy of a codec for me, but I've always thought that it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. One thing I'm gonna try is just doing a little higher frame rates. So let's do 4K, 60 frames per second, 10-bit. At 60 frames per second, shutter speed's gonna be a little faster, so gotta let in a little bit more light. We'll see what 1250 looks like with Vlog. Something else that's a pretty standout feature for me on the S5 IIX is that it has dual native ISO, from 640 at the low end to 4000 at the high end. So you're gonna get really good low light performance and good dynamic range when shooting in Vlog. I believe Panasonic claims it has 14 plus stops of dynamic range when shooting in Vlog, which is pretty rad. Another feature that I kind of feel like is slept on by a lot of people is that the ProRes recording for 4K has to be done through an external SSD. But the really cool thing is that you can record ProRes internally to an SD card. It just has to be in 1080p. But the nice thing is, with this full frame, highly detailed sensor, even the 1080p stuff looks really good. In fact, I'm shooting this segment right now in ProRes internally to an SSD card. This is Apple ProRes 422, and I think it looks amazing. So 24 millimeters might not be ideal for vlogging, and definitely not this 24 to 105 because it's a pretty heavy lens, but even at 24 millimeters, you can still do it. I'm using phase detection, autofocus, and it's working pretty well. The other thing that this S5 IIX has that it shares with the original is really good internal image stabilization, which is great if you're someone like me who likes to just do a lot of run and gun shooting. You don't always want to set up a gimbal. Having really good image stabilization in your camera is just going to make it so that you don't actually have to pull out your gimbal as often as you used to. And something else that this camera has is open gate recording, which means instead of shooting 16:9, you can actually shoot a 3:2 image, which is using the entire full frame sensor, which is honestly really, really cool because that allows you to crop a lot easier for vertical if you're shooting social stuff, and it just gives you a much easier image to work with. So that's something that I really like that you can do with this S5 IIX. So I wanted to talk about codecs a little bit more, and I already touched on how much I love Apple ProRes that you can record internally at 1080p, but there are 3 other codecs in 4K that I really like that you can record straight to SD cards. So the first codec that I am going to be using a lot is the 4K 10-bit 422 long op option. Now this records into an MOV file and it's only 150 megabits per second, so it's not going to take up a whole bunch of room on your SD cards. So this next codec is going to be perfect for content creators who just need a 4K 10-bit file but in really small file sizes. So this is going to be recorded into an MP4 wrapper, and this is 4K 10-bit 420, and it's only going to be recorded at 72 megabits per second, so really small file sizes. Okay, so the last codec that I'm going to talk about is probably the beefiest one that you can record internally when you're talking about 4K files, and that is the All-I 10-bit 422 at 400 megabits per second. So this is going to take up a lot of card space, but it's going to give you the best looking image out of this camera when it comes to recording internally. And All-I is also going to play back a lot easier in your video editor. But you are going to need some very fast cards, so just keep that in mind. This is going to give you the best looking image, but it is going to take up the most amount of space and require the fastest cards. Something that I really like about this camera is that although it has all of these very high-end professional features that serious filmmakers would want, it still seems like it's a creator-focused camera. There's so many different options that you can use to make your life as a content creator so much easier, like the various different codecs and formats that you can use, so you don't have to shoot in the most robust codec. You can shoot in a much easier codec to work with. You can shoot right internally to SD cards. You can shoot into an external SSD. It has great IBIS. It has amazing autofocus. So there's a lot of things that creators are going to love, but then the more high-end filmmakers who want that really, really robust image, they have the option of shooting in ProRes RAW or Blackmagic RAW. Now I'm really excited because I have a few other videos in the works where I'm going to take the S5 IIX, put it through its paces, and try to create some really cool looking stuff with it, so definitely stay tuned for that. But those are my first impressions of this amazing camera, and I can't wait to use it more. Big thanks to Panasonic for sponsoring this video, and if you'd like to watch some more of my videos, you can click on either side of my face. And let's see, I don't think I have anything else to tell you except later.